Good afternoon. We are now entering week 3 for instructional leadership, and I want to begin this week by giving you a little feedback on your assignments. I've corrected a few of the papers that were uploaded so far this week and looked at most of your discussion board entries. I first want to say that everybody had their discussion board initial postings up by Thursday, so that was great. A few of you still need to finish getting your second responses up. And just to clarify, because some of you were unsure about the fact that there needed to be two responses to each post. So the way that it shows up on my screen is your initial post and then any responses that you write, so I can see them easily there. On the papers, we're still struggling a little bit with APA. The first thing I need to say is a lot of the errors I'm seeing are errors that I talked about last week and that I referred to in the first weeks when we talked about the resources that are available on Blackboard for you. So please look in your in your APA manual and look at the resources on Blackboard. You should be downloading those, and you should have purchased the manual. If you haven't, I strongly suggest that you do that now. In the papers, I'm using the comment section to write on your paper, so if your paper is downloaded in that format on the website, I could put those comments right there. So look at your paper as well as my feedback. And I hope you're all looking at the feedback that I put when I put your grade in, because sometimes I see the same errors every week, and it makes me think that people aren't always looking at the feedback that's been provided there for you. On the discussion board posts, most of you are now giving correct references at the bottom of your posting, but don't forget to put an in-text citation in the body of your posting as well. And those two things will get you in the habit of how to do in-text citations and how to get your formatting done correctly for your reference page. Okay, so moving on to this week, a couple of the objectives that we're looking at is to identify models of curriculum and instructional leadership that will successfully attain school program goals and expected student learning goals. Also, we want to analyze the visions of good leaders, which we started on last week, and develop a personal vision for instructional and transformational school leadership. So we're continuing in that this week as well. And to be able to communicate opportunities for positive change in the diverse culture and climate of your school, so that all the stakeholders will value a vision of excellence for learning. So those are just a couple of things I want you to keep at the forefront as you're going through your readings. This week's workload is considerably lighter than last week. Last week was pretty tough. This week you have 2 chapters in the textbook, Chapter 8, which is Fostering Collaboration, and Chapter 9, which is Strengthening Others. And these 2 chapters together come under the heading of Enabling Others to Act. So kind of keep that also in your mind as you're reading through those chapters. There's only one article posted this week for your reading. It's a 2009 article about 4 stories of adaptive leadership from the point of view of 4 varied business leaders. So I think you'll find that interesting. And then one video. This is a 9-minute TED Talk from Rosalind Torres. What does it take to be a great leader? And she starts by asking a couple of questions. Why are leadership gaps widening? And what are successful leaders doing? So I think you'll find her video enlightening and interesting. Again, on discussion board this week, you have 2 choices. There are 2 questions posed. You only need to choose one of them. So when you reply type in either discussion board 1 or discussion board 2 so that we'll know what your topic is. If you choose discussion board 1, it's asking you that as you're reading this chapter 8 and chapter 9 in your textbook, that you choose a quote that resonates with your leadership style or style you wish to employ, and reflect on the connections that you've made. Your other option on discussion board is to look from your perspective as an educational leader. What do you perceive to be 3 of the greatest challenges that students face in today's schools that hinder their realization of exemplary academic success? And what do you suggest to remedy those challenges? So again, as always, those initial posts will be due this coming Tuesday by midnight, and your responses by next week, Sunday. I want you to be looking ahead to assignment 3. It's not due until week 4, but it involves interviewing 2 leaders. And so, especially since this week is not exceptionally heavy, it might be a good idea to see if you can line up these interviews now and get a start on those. One of them should be a leader in education that you think is an effective leader, and then also an effective leader in business. The directions for this assignment are on Blackboard, and this is the signature assignment. It'll have a rubric there for it, but I would strongly suggest that you decide who you want to interview. It can be personal acquaintances, it could be people that you work with, anybody that you think would be an interesting person to interview for this assignment. So take a look at those requirements on this. It's on this week's website, it's on this week's Blackboard site, and you can click on there to get further information on that. And then also, I remind you every week, I hope that everyone is keeping up with the Reading Reflection Journal and making sure that you reflect on at least 2 ideas from what you read or heard this week that is especially impactful on you. So that is really about all I have to say for this week. Again, I'm really wanting to make sure that you get good feedback about APA so that your papers begin to take on the format and the voice of an APA paper. So if you have questions, I'm always available by phone or email or text. So please let me know if you have any questions, and I'll try and get back to you as soon as I can. Have a good week, and I will post another video next Sunday.